What's going on, FPL managers? Welcome to the video. In this one we're going to be looking at which premium players to have over Christmas. Before we look at the players themselves, let's see how their teams are doing in attack. This chart splits the number of shots a team has had into two categories, big and small chances. Small chances are the more difficult efforts, roughly speaking individual shots with an XG of under 0.5. They may be converted much less of the time, but they're still important as they signify intent and confidence. Big chances are the easier efforts, let's say individual shots with an XG of over 0.5. Players who tend to position themselves closer to goal, being in the right place at the right time, tend to get these chances more than others. These types of chances are converted much more frequently. In fact, elite players tend to score 50% of the big chances they're afforded. What's important here is to pick players from teams that have a good number of both types of chances, as this is typically more predictive of goals. If a team just has a lot of small chances or just a lot of big chances, then they'll likely struggle to score goals consistently and will suffer erratic results. These are the best teams that have a good combination of those stats. Aston Villa and Leeds will offer value picks in Jack Grealish and Patrick Bamford, while Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea and Man City will be the main contenders for premium picks. With those four teams, they're scoring the most goals with the best stats, but they have a number of different players that are usually involved. Salah, Mane, Jota, Firmino for Liverpool, Fernandes, Rashford, Martial, Greenwood and Cavani for Man United, De Bruyne, Sterling, Mahrez and Jesus for Man City, Werner, Giroud, Abraham, Pulisic, Ziyech, Havertz and Mount for Chelsea. Leicester are on the verge of being too unpredictable here for my liking, but their talisman striker Jamie Vardy is still worth a consideration. The elephant in the room, and the team I haven't mentioned yet, is Spurs. They've just had 3 great results against top teams, are very much in form and even tipped for winning the league. When Spurs score, the likelihood is that it's either Son or Kane. They're the talisman of that team and have a very high percentage goal involvement. The problem is that under Mourinho they play in a conservative way, defending deep and counter-attacking, relying on being clinical and taking their chances. To their credit, that's exactly what they've been doing, but their underlying stats are starting to waver. How long can they go on being clinical? The difficult choice we have ahead of us with regards to premium assets is whether to opt for a lot of less or less of more. Let's talk about the players themselves, their fixtures, their form and their individual stats. There's 10 of them, so I've split them into 2 groups of 5. Man City have burst into life, scoring 7 in their last 2 games, with KDB getting double-digit returns in both games. They've certainly improved the number of big chances, and that's the sign to go full steam ahead City. After their trip to Man United in game week 12, they have a run of 4 decent fixtures, including 2 plum home games against West Brom and Newcastle. De Bruyne is playing in a number 10 position, which has increased the number of shots he's been afforded in the last 6 game weeks. Even with comparatively few big chances, which are mostly from penalties, his all-round stats are exceptional. 20 small chances is the most in the league. Even though they represent more difficult opportunities, last year no player scored more small chance goals than De Bruyne, most likely due to his excellent technical ability. He's still the master creator too, creating 6 big chances for his teammates in the last 6 game weeks, which is joint top in the league alongside Bruno Fernandes. Still only 24% owned, De Bruyne would be the first name on my team sheet if I was wildcarding. Raheem Sterling offers an intriguing double-up option alongside De Bruyne. His stats here have been subdued somewhat by missing most of the trip to Spurs and all of the home match against Burnley. With his poor start to the season, he is only owned by 4% of managers. Will his goal and assist against Fulham inspire a run of form? Liverpool have scored the most goals in the league in the last 6. That's been a fairly consistent theme since the start of the season. They now have a great run of fixtures either side of Spurs in game week 13. They start with Fulham in game week 12, where Salah is likely to be overwhelmingly captained. Salah missed out on the 3-0 win against Leicester due to a COVID diagnosis, so his stats are slightly hindered. Even so, his level of returns over the course of the season have been remarkably consistent, which is what you get from the most expensive player in the game, who also happens to be on penalties. Similarly to Sterling, Mane offers an intriguing alternative to Salah if you're willing to go against the grain. His statistical form isn't quite as impressive as Salah's, but he certainly has the ability to turn it on when required. Timo Werner is third for number of big chances in the last 6 game weeks with 7, only behind Bamford with 10 and Vardy with 8. He's been labelled as wasteful so far, not being nearly as clinical as we anticipated. But, as we saw in the Bundesliga last season, he can be a streaky player. When he goes on a run of form, he can be unstoppable. Certainly with the rise in his stats, the indications are there that this can begin at Everton, with the Toffees being one of the worst defences in the league, failing to keep a clean sheet since game week 1. At 9.5 million, he could feasibly be the 4th premium in your side, with the move away from ultra-premium defenders and the likes of Grealish, Jota and Bamford being cheaper enablers. Moving on to the second list of 5, we start with Man United. They've improved their attacking stats in recent weeks, mainly due to the talent of Bruno Fernandes. With Man City up next, buyers intent on purchasing the Portuguese international may be best advised waiting until the trip to Bramall Lane in game week 13. Fernandes has 7 attacking returns in his last 6 games, with excellent all-round stats to back them up, rivalling those of Kevin De Bruyne's. At 10.9 million, he's around $1 million cheaper than the Belgian and Mo Salah, and at 41% owned, he's the second most popular premium player. Marcus Rashford will be instrumental in converting Fernandes' passes, but his stats aren't nearly as impressive. Werner and Son may provide better value at a similar price. Kane and Son I'm going to talk about as a pair. They are both very highly owned and have been offering great value so far this season. In my opinion, we are at a crossroads with regards to premium options, and these two players will play a pivotal role in deciding which path to take. Either you stick with them believing that they can sustain their form with clinical finishing week in, week out, or you move them on to one or two of the aforementioned premium players. For example, I own both and I'm considering transferring them out for Mo Salah and Patrick Bamford. The fact is that Son and Kane's stats were much better in the first 6 weeks of the season, and since then they have taken a dip even before playing conservatively against Man City, Chelsea and Arsenal. They struggled to break down teams that defend deep, only managing late 1-0 victories against Burnley and West Brom. With Palace up next, there may not be too much difference in the result. Mostly all the premium players in game week 11 did well, but this is usually not the case. Choosing the right premiums at the right time, especially when combined with captaincy, can give us big green arrows. Those that get this decision right with Son and Kane, whether it's keeping or selling, will mostly likely define your season. Jamie Vardy has 7 attacking returns in the last 6. He's always been classed as a stats buster, but this always makes him an unpredictable fantasy asset, especially when most of his goals have come from penalties. I personally don't like owning a player like Vardy who relies so heavily on his team to create big chances for him. These can easily ebb away after a loss of team confidence, as it did around 2/3 of the way through last season. So summarising, if I was wildcarding, I think I would have Kevin De Bruyne, Mo Salah and Bruno Fernandes in my team, with the possibility of Timo Werner if I wanted to attack a rank increase, or Son if I wanted to hedge my bets and defend a rank decrease. Thanks for watching guys. If you've made it this far, please make sure to give the video a thumbs up. It really helps other FPL managers see this content. Subscribe to the channel and I will see you next time.